Hello, friends. This is Confessions with Amy. Here we share new confessions every day.
They say your life can change in a moment. That's a lie. Mine changed in 10 seconds with one voicemail. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary. Harmless. I had just picked up my daughter, Mira, from school in Savannah Heights and was peeling a clementine in the kitchen when I noticed the blinking red light on the answering machine. The kind you ignore 99 times out of 100. This was the 100th. Hey, Jules. I didn't want to do this over the phone, but you gave me no choice. I'm flying to Sydney tonight. Marina and I are starting over. I transferred the money, we both know it was mostly mine anyway. I'm sorry. Take care of Mira. Click. Just like that. 15 years, gone with a coward's voicemail. My husband, Eli, had finally done it. He left. With his yoga teaching, quote posting, green juice loving mistress. Marina. The woman I once welcomed into our home because she seemed lonely. And he took the money. All of it. Our daughter's college fund. Our joint savings. My startup nest egg. Gone. Most people would panic. Cry. Maybe throw a chair through a window. But I didn't. Because I already knew. The sign started 3 months ago. New cologne he claimed was a sample. Overnights in Palm Springs for work when the company was fully remote. Passwords changed. A second phone charger under the couch. He thought he was subtle. Eli never realized I've always been better at pretending than he is. I'm a forensic accountant, for God's sake. I don't do gut feelings, I follow trails. And his were messy. The transfer amounts didn't match the invoices he showed me. His hotel receipts listed double occupancy. And the final nail. A payment to a boutique hotel in Byron Bay, under the name Elijah N. Grayson. For two. That was 2 months ago. So I played dumb. I nodded, kissed his cheek, packed Myra's lunches, laughed at his jokes like nothing was wrong. And meanwhile, I moved. Quietly. I opened a new account in my maiden name, Juliet Norwood. Set up a second LLC, fully legal, fully traceable, fully mine. Rerouted all incoming payments from my freelance clients to it. Transferred most of our savings in small, forgettable increments, $2, $800 here, $1,500 there. Enough left to keep him comfortable. Enough to make him think he won. He always underestimated me. And that was his greatest mistake. I pressed delete on the voicemail. Mira was in the other room, humming while painting watercolor clouds. She had no idea that her father had chosen another life, another country, another woman. Not yet. I made grilled cheese for her and said nothing. Because rage is loud, but power is quiet. And I had a plan. Most women don't plan for betrayal. I did. Not because I'm paranoid. Because I pay attention. The morning after the voicemail, I woke up at 5:13 a.m. My body had adapted to early starts back when Mira was a toddler and sleep was a luxury. Now, it was my power window, that perfect silence before the world started expecting things from me. I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, 2 pens, and a cup of burnt coffee. Across from me, Eli's chair sat empty. I stared at it for a while, not because I missed him, I just needed to remember who he really was. Not the man who made pancakes on Sundays. Not the one who read bedtime stories in bad Scottish accents. The real Eli, the one who thought he was smarter, sneakier, entitled to more than he deserved. And then I got to work. 2 weeks before the voicemail, I had met with Angela Bristow, a divorce attorney known for making Wall Street execs cry in mediation. Her office in Charleston smelled like eucalyptus and iron. She asked one question: "Do you want peace, or do you want power?" "Both," I said. She smiled like that was the right answer. We spent 2 hours going over every asset, every transaction. Angela called my prep impressive. I called it necessary. I gave her access to everything: the dummy LLC I'd created, the transfers, even the prenup Eli forgot I updated after Mira was born. Yes, he signed it. Yes, it held up. Yes, he was screwed. The second move was the house. We owned it jointly, but I had refinanced it in my name last fall under the pretense of better interest rates. He didn't read the paperwork. He never did. I kept the payments regular, the mailbox clean, and the front lawn respectable. Now, the house was legally mine. And Eli? He had no idea. I didn't stop there. I called Myra's school and updated her emergency contact list, removing his name and replacing it with my sister's. I installed a new security system. I changed all the passwords, not just financial ones, but the little ones, too: Netflix, cloud storage, the family calendar. Things he might use to peek in, to pretend he still belonged. Then I messaged my clients and told them I'd be unavailable for personal reasons for the next 2 weeks. They didn't ask questions. My work had always spoken louder than any explanation. The last thing I did was sit down with Mira. She was quiet for a moment after I told her. Then she looked up and said, "Can we still live here? With the magnolia tree?" "Yes, baby. That tree's not going anywhere." She nodded and went back to drawing. Kids don't need every detail, just certainty. Something stable to hold on to when the rest of the ground gives way. I wouldn't let her feel what I had felt. Not the way I felt it. Eli didn't reach out again for a week. When he did, it was an email with the subject line, "Let's talk." "No, thank you." By then, his name had been removed from the deed, our accounts, Myra's school, and most importantly, from my future. He thought he'd locked me out. But he walked away from a house that no longer had his name on the title, a woman who no longer needed his presence, and a daughter who was learning what strength looked like in real time. He didn't leave me behind. He left himself behind. And they never looked back. They lasted 11 days in Sydney. I know because Marina's Instagram went from filtered beach selfies with captions like "starting fresh #soul journey" to radio silence by day 5, then full-on passive-aggressive quotes by day 11. Some people will love you until loving you requires effort. Be careful who you build with. Not everyone brings bricks. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it all was. Eli had fallen for the idea of Marina. You know the type: hair always damp from yoga, always healing, always one retreat away from being whole. She didn't love him. She loved how he made her feel. And when that wore off, when his bank account hit a wall and his charm started to curdle, she did what she was always going to do. She left. Angela, my lawyer, forwarded me a message from Eli's lawyer the next day. It was pitiful. Apparently, after the money transfer, Eli had discovered the account was already near empty. Marina had encouraged him to invest a large chunk into a wellness startup run by her friend Damien, a man whose only business experience was managing a vape shop in Tasmania. The startup folded in 8 days. Eli wanted to discuss the terms of the divorce, now that things have shifted. I didn't reply. Instead, I met Angela for lunch at a cafe overlooking Forsyth Park. She wore a cream suit and sunglasses like she'd stepped out of a courtroom drama. I wore a sundress and peace. She pushed a manila folder across the table. Here's his updated affidavit. He's trying to argue emotional duress and lack of informed consent. I flipped it open, scanned a few lines, and raised an eyebrow. He's saying I emotionally manipulated him into signing a prenup 7 years ago. Angela sipped her espresso. Desperate people reach for drowning arguments. We sat in silence for a while, watching a father push his daughter on a swing nearby. You know, I said, I think he really believed I'd fall apart. Angela smiled faintly. They always do. The next message from Eli came 3 nights later. It was 2:17 a.m. I was up anyway. Mira had a fever, and I was on the couch with her in my lap and an old episode of Bluey humming softly in the background. Subject, just talk to me. Jules. I messed up. I see that now. Marina's gone. The money's gone. I can't even get a hotel room with what I have left. I've been sleeping in a shared hostel with a guy who sells mushrooms out of his pillowcase. I miss you. I miss Mira. I want to come home. Please don't do this. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked the email. Then I opened Myra's medication drawer, gave her another teaspoon of Tylenol, and held her a little closer. That's the thing about men like Eli. They don't miss you. They miss the version of themselves they got to be next to you. He never saw me for what I was, only for how useful I made his life look. Now, he saw me clearly. And it was too late. It came by regular mail. No signature. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in blue ink. Juliet Norwood. I opened it in the kitchen, absent-mindedly, between feeding Mira scrambled eggs and chasing down a plumber who still hadn't shown up to fix the leak in the upstairs shower. Inside, 3 pages. Folded twice. No envelope perfume. No flourish. Just desperation, spelled out in Eli's tight, slanted handwriting. Jules. I know I have no right. I know I burned every bridge. But I'm asking you, please read this. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I didn't know how to be loved by someone like you. Someone who always had it together. Someone who didn't need saving. Marina made me feel wanted. Important. She looked at me like I was brilliant even when I wasn't. You looked at me like you could see through me, because you could. I thought if I controlled the money, I could control the future. That was stupid. Now I see what you always saw. I wasn't ready for a woman like you. But I am now. Please let me come home. For Mira. For us. I'll do anything. I read it twice. Not because I was moved. But because I wanted to be sure I caught all the manipulation buried beneath the apology. I didn't know how to be loved. Translation, don't blame me, blame your strength. I'll do anything. Translation, until I don't have to anymore. I put the letter down and made a cup of tea. Jasmine mint. Mira was watching cartoons, giggling. Her fever had broken that morning. She'd asked if we could plant sunflowers in the backyard this weekend. I told her we would. There was a time, maybe years ago, when a letter like this would have cracked me open. I would have cried, questioned everything, doubted myself. That version of me no longer existed. The version of me he left behind. She evolved. She became someone Eli wouldn't even recognize anymore. That night, I wrote him back. 1 page. Typed. Folded once. No signature. Eli. You didn't leave because you were unloved. You left because you were uncomfortable being seen. You mistook my clarity for criticism. My strength for emasculation. My silence for indifference. You couldn't stand that I didn't fall apart without you. And now, you want to come home because your gamble failed. Not because you've changed. Mira has a home. I have a life. You have your consequences. Juliet. I mailed it the next morning. No drama. No spectacle. And when I dropped it into the slot, something in my chest, something I didn't even realize I'd been holding, released. Like a cord finally cut. Not with violence. Just with finality. Eli never responded again. Because what could he say to a woman who no longer needed to explain herself? There's a moment, after the rage cools, after the dust settles, after you realize he's not coming back and you wouldn't want him to, where a new question emerges. Not, what did I lose? But, what can I create now? That was the question I asked myself on a quiet Friday morning in April, sitting barefoot on the porch with Mira drawing beside me and a mug of coffee that had gone cold long ago. For the first time in years, there was no one to wait for. No one to tiptoe around. No mood to manage. No ego to shrink for. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was mine. I started small. I repainted the hallway. Just because I wanted to. Eli had always hated color, said it made things feel too busy. I chose a deep emerald green, bold and unapologetic. Mira helped with the roller, giggling when she splattered a streak across her nose. We turned our garage into a tiny studio for me, 1 desk, 2 monitors, 3 plants I was determined not to kill this time. I finally rebranded my freelance consulting firm and launched a website with my full name on it. Juliet Norwood Consulting. No shared email. No second login. Just mine. Then I reached out to a woman named Roya Adams, a former client turned investor who'd once told me, if you ever build something, I want in. Back then, I'd laughed and said, maybe someday. Someday had arrived. We scheduled coffee. She listened. She nodded. And 2 weeks later, she wired seed funding into my business account with a simple note. About damn time. I built a team, lean, smart, all women. We specialized in forensic audits for female entrepreneurs dealing with post-divorce financial chaos. I knew exactly what they needed, because I had been them. And as the work came in, so did the confidence. Not loud confidence. Not the kind Eli had, brittle and performative. Mine was quiet, grounded, earned. Mira adjusted better than I expected. She asked about her dad less and less. I never hid the truth, but I also didn't hand it to her like a weapon. I let her shape her own story. Children sense stability like weather, and our home was finally warm. One evening, we danced in the living room to Aretha Franklin, barefoot, both of us singing off-key. Mira looked up at me mid-spin and said, "Mom, you're happy now." I paused. Smiled. "Yeah, baby. I really am." People talk about starting over like it's some dramatic reset. A big leap. A new zip code. But for me, it was 100 small choices. A reclaimed name on a mailbox. A lavender candle on a nightstand. Laughing out loud in my own kitchen. Loving my daughter without resentment quietly bleeding through the cracks. I wasn't trying to rebuild the life Eli abandoned. I was building something he could have never given me, and something he never deserved to witness. A life where I wasn't someone's wife, someone's support system, someone's backup plan. I was just Juliet. And that was enough. He showed up on a Wednesday. I remember because I had just gotten off a call with a new client in San Diego, and Mira had soccer practice. The sun was out, the dogwood trees were blooming, and life was finally humming like a song I actually liked. Then came the knock. I opened the door, still holding a mason jar of lemon water, and there he was. Eli. Thinner. Paler. wearing a shirt 2 sizes too big and a look that tried to land somewhere between remorse and entitlement. For a long second, neither of us spoke. He tried first. "You look good." I nodded. "I do." He asked to come in. I didn't move. "Say what you came to say," I told him. My voice was calm. Even. Cold, maybe, but not angry. I was past anger. "I'm not here to fight," he said. I thought maybe we could talk. Maybe I could see Mira. I didn't respond. He shifted, uncomfortable. That was new. Eli used to take up space like it owed him something. Now he looked like someone unsure if he was welcome even on the porch. "I've changed, Jules," he said. And I almost laughed. "Eli," I said, "you've been gone for 9 months. You didn't send a birthday card. Not even a message when Mira broke her arm in January. You didn't change. You just ran out of places to run." His face tightened. He tried again. "I'm back in the States. I'm working again. I'm clean. I've been going to therapy." "Good," I said. "Do it for yourself." He took that as an opening. "So maybe I could." "You don't live here anymore." That stopped him. He blinked. The porch fell silent again, except for a bird chirping somewhere behind him. "Are you seeing someone?" he asked, low and bitter. I smiled. "Does it matter?" Here's the thing no one tells men like Eli. You don't get to burn the house down and then get mad when someone builds something better on top of the ashes. He wasn't here for Mira. Not really. He was here because he needed to see if the door was still cracked open, even just a little. But it wasn't. I had sealed it. Painted it. Put a new lock on. And behind it, a life he would never have access to again. "You can send anything from Mira through the lawyer," I said. "We don't need contact outside of that." He swallowed hard. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." He stood there a little longer, like maybe I'd change my mind if he looked sad enough. I didn't. Eventually, he nodded. Back down the steps. And walked away. I watched until he turned the corner. Then I closed the door. And this time, it didn't hurt. Later that night, Mira asked if someone had come by. "Just a visitor," I said. She shrugged and went back to her homework. She didn't ask for him. And I didn't bring him up. Because sometimes the past shows up like a test, not to be retaken, but to prove how far you've come. And I had passed. With peace. There's a silence that used to scare me. The kind that crept in around 11 p.m., when Mira was asleep, the dishes were done, and there was nothing left to distract me from my own thoughts. Back when Eli left, that silence felt like proof that something had gone terribly wrong. Now, it feels like home. I sit on the back porch most nights now. Cup of tea. Soft breeze. The wind rustling through the trees like it knows a secret. Myra's laughter echoing from upstairs. The dog curled up at my feet. No noise. No chaos. Just presence. Sometimes, I think about who I was before all of this. Before the betrayal. Before the fight. Before the reinvention. She was kind. Trusting. Capable, but quiet about it. She wanted safety more than she wanted joy. She clung to the version of love that meant stay, no matter how badly it hurts. I'm grateful for her. She survived so I could become. Last week, I got a message from Roya. One of our biggest clients, a national finance firm, wants to bring us in as their exclusive recovery and audit partner. 6-figure contract. Full autonomy. They said they love our precision and our grit. You built something rare, Roya wrote. And I finally let myself believe it. I didn't just rebuild. I transformed. Eli hasn't tried again. I think, deep down, he knows there's nothing left here for him. Not hatred. Not longing. Just absence. And sometimes, that's the loudest answer of all. Mira asked me recently, "Mom, what does strong mean?" I thought for a second. Then I told her. Strong means you don't disappear, even when someone tries to erase you. It means you remember who you are when everyone else forgets. And it means you don't wait to be saved, you build the thing that saves you. She nodded like she understood. And I think, in her own way, she does. Because she's growing up with a mother who didn't just survive, but flourished. So no, I didn't get revenge. I got something better. Freedom. Clarity. Power, the kind that doesn't need to shout. The kind that walks into a room without apology. The kind that raises a daughter with steady hands and no fear. The kind that never needs to explain itself to anyone ever again. I am Juliet Norwood. And I have everything I need.